Yeah, just to address your most important question. Yeah, it's pronounced Kialo, um, uh, but it can be pronounced however you want, and people find all different ways to pronounce it. But we pronounce it Kialo. It's the Esperanto word meaning reason. Yeah, thanks, folks, for having me. Thanks, Kenji, for inviting us. My name's Khai. I work in partnerships at Kialo. Kialo is a free discussion tool. A little bit of background about our tool. So it's 100% free. We have it on a sign at all of our conferences, as Kenji pointed out there. It's a tool that can be used for both in-class and asynchronous discussions. I think for university purposes or third-level education, generally used for asynchronous discussions, specifically designed to train critical thinking and civil discourse skills. We're based out of Berlin. We're headquartered in Berlin. And the reason that we're free, that there isn't a catch, is that we're fully funded by a philanthropic nonprofit, German nonprofit, to support our company mission, which is to make the world more thoughtful, or put in a very nerdy way, to increase the net amount of critical thinking in the world. The other issue that people sometimes have when we say we're a free tool is, okay, you'll be around for the next 6 months and you'll be bought out, or you'll stop updating it, or what have you. But we've been around. This educational version has been around since 2019. So we're in it for the long haul. Since then, we've had 1.3 million signups, 500,000 plus discussions on the platform. A little bit about why we created Kialo. I mean, from a pedagogical perspective, we all know how important discussions are, because they're active learning experiences for students. Students get actively engaged, they take control of their own learning. And also they build these 21st century skills that everybody's always talking about, right? Critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and they help to foster a sense of learning community within the learning environment. For asynchronous discussion activities, sometimes this is the way that students have discussions, right? If they're not having them in the classroom, or on video calls, or in a hybrid situation like the one that you have here, is via online forums. And we really see Kialo as an alternative to those, because it isn't always easy to get all of these benefits in an online discussion forum. Some of the problems that forums have for students: the interactions that students have on forums are often quite shallow. They'll be superficial, because they'll just be responding to the point that the instructor has set for them, rather than interacting with each other. Or if they are told to interact with each other, they may just be agreeing or disagreeing, or reframing the point made by another student. They can also end up quite messy. If students do engage in discussion forums, the structure of the discussion isn't always very clear. If a student wants to respond, a student joins on day 3 and wants to respond to a point that's made on day 1, they need to quote that and put it down at the bottom of the thread after the other replies. So they can be hard to follow, and the connections between different points can be unclear. And discussion forums can also be quite discouraging for some students. If there are enthusiastic students, they might dominate by posting a lot. Students who may want to disagree or have counter arguments can fear judgment, because it can seem quite combative to say, I think you're wrong, put it there enshrined in text as a response. And then just fundamentally, forums are not the most engaging format, especially for today's students who are so used to all different kinds of digital, interactive, visually engaging, and stimulating pieces of software. So the alternative that we propose is to move from discussion forums, the traditional reply stack discussion forum, to an interactive discussion map. And that's what we've built with Kialo. So Kialo is a form of digital argument mapping. Argument mapping is a concept that comes from philosophy, maybe familiar to those of you there in Scotland with your rich history of philosophers. Argument mapping is a way of visually structuring argumentation and the relationship between different points in an argument. So it centers around a clear proposition. For this example, we've chosen the ever controversial, does pineapple belong on pizza? So you turn that into a declarative statement: pineapple belongs on pizza. And then you can build arguments and counter arguments based on their relation to that statement, and then work moving further down, supporting or weakening the resultant arguments here. So the top level, and then the level below, and so on. So this is just argument mapping that somebody could do by themselves on pen and paper. What we've done at Kialo is create an interactive digital argument map, but it's very much the same structure. So the instructor starts with a central thesis at the top. Students then interact with that by adding pros underneath to support that, or they add cons to weaken that statement. And then after each one of those pros and cons, the students can then respond to that by adding pros and cons to support that, pros to support that, or cons to weaken that one. And the result that you get at the end is an argument map, which can be visualized in two different ways. On the left here is what we call the tree structure. So this is one branch of the argument map going down, one branch of the discussion and how it led off. And on the right, this is what we call the sunburst view, which is where you can get an overview of every claim that the students have made in the discussion. And if you're on laptop or desktop, you can hover over and see the text and get an overview at a glance like that. So this is the basics of what we do on Kialo. No matter how you try to demonstrate it visually like this, you really need to interact with it in order to see how it works. So to that end, I'm going to ask you all to join the discussion here. So once you join into the discussion, I'd encourage you to all write some claims. Before you start writing, please see what other claims exist so that you're not all repeating the same point. Try to keep each point to one claim. Explore both navigation methods, so both the tree and the sunburst. And also, if you want to complete your assigned tasks, up in the top right, there'll be a little tasks icon there. I'm also going to throw the bit.ly into the chat here, if that's easier for some people. So I'll just leave that there for a couple of moments until everybody's in. Great. So I'm hoping everybody's in now. Please, well, I can see the group of people in person. Please raise your hand if you need another moment there. Okay, great. So I'll move on through the slides here. I'll just go through them fairly quick. I'll send these slides to Kenji afterwards so he can disseminate them. They have some links and so on. But I'll move through the rest of the slides. But please interact with the discussion while we're going through. And then at the end, we can see how it's progressed, and I can answer your questions based around the actual app itself. So how does argument mapping help students when compared to, for example, online discussion forums? You get much higher quality of interaction between students in argument mapping because every point that the student makes is necessarily in the context of responding to another student. And it's not just saying, I agree, I disagree, great point. It's necessarily an argument in favor of it or an argument against it. So this gives the discussion structure. Also, because the way that argument maps work is that they encourage students to post a single idea. A single claim is a single idea, a single point. So you're not ending up with multiple paragraphs that contain 6 points in total that it's really hard for another student to pick which point they want to respond to. And also it lowers the barriers to participation for students, particularly when you want to have discussions around debatable topics, because the structure of it encourages students to come up with cons to that claim without that feeling combative. It's not like in a discussion forum where disagreeing can feel like you're putting yourself forward to argue with another student. For educators then, for instructors, this structure makes guiding students to participate easier because it's already built into it. It allows instructors to have an overview of the entire discussion. This is useful for two reasons, right? So it can allow you to identify areas of interest. So points around that topic where students really got engaged, you might want to extend further. And also knowledge gaps. If students haven't participated on a particular branch of the discussion, perhaps it's something that they haven't actually understood properly. And also, argument mapping has a clear pedagogical benefit. This is borne out with research in that it trains critical thinking skills. It's one of the most effective ways of training critical thinking skills, which are difficult to define, but using the common definitions, which are the skills of being able to construct arguments, analyze and evaluate arguments. This is what argument mapping is particularly designed to do. And what it also allows us is to visualize the process of thinking, the way different points are connected, the way evidence and counter arguments are connected together, which is something that it's hard to do otherwise. A few of the common ways that this is used. So as I said, an alternative to discussion forums where you might have an asynchronous activity between classes. That can be with large classes, but also small groups within classes. We have a feature for breaking any size class, but particularly, huge university courses of hundreds of students, easily breaking those down into smaller groups so they can all participate in a template of the discussion the instructor has set. And we've actually found in our internal research that between 5 and 10 students in a discussion is where you get the maximum amount of participation. This is the sweet spot. A lot of the educators who use us have used us as preparation for seminars. So where students are going to be talking either in person or over video call, particularly where students are shy and they struggle with that, and particularly students who are not speaking in their first language, there's a huge benefit to having a Kialo discussion in the intervening few days. And then they're prepared to come and have those kind of back and forth discussions, which can be really challenging to do off the bat for a lot of students. Because of the structure, the pro-con structure of it, it's also really good for planning essays, for preparing essays. And we've seen some usage of that, and we've also seen some instructors use it as an alternative to written essays. So where you just want to assess the student's ability to provide an argument, support it with evidence, come up with counter arguments and respond to them. It's not always necessary for them to have to write 500 words or 1,000 words in order to demonstrate those skills, but you can actually do it in a Kialo discussion, which is extremely easy then for the instructor to go through, check, and grade. How does it work with Moodle? Yeah, it works in 2 different ways. So the way that we recommend is via our dedicated plugin you can find in the plugin directory. We recommend this not only because it works better, but because we spent a lot of time working on it, or our dev team did, but it also works via LTI. So those options are there if there's some reason that you would prefer that. Once you get into Moodle, then you just add it as an activity. Obviously, it has role provisioning, but you can also send the grades back to the grader report. So we have grade sync, and you can also use Moodle groups to for the small group mode feature. So that feature that I mentioned earlier, if you have a course of 400 students, they're already in Moodle groups as Moodle groups for their tutorials. For example, you can use those same groups in the small group mode. So I'll just quickly hop into the Moodle view to show you. Here we go. So this is it inside Moodle, and it just works embedded with exactly the same functionality that you're seeing there on the examples that you have. And this example here is one of a small group mode discussion. So here is the template. So the instructor has set this, and the students are in 3 different groups. Each of them is participating in their own version of this. And it's possible for the instructor to also grade in here if they wish. And send those grades back to LMS. And then you'll find the grades here in the graded report. Next couple of slides. So I have here a couple of the awards that we've won in the last couple of years. I won't go on about those, and some testimony from teachers and other organizations. I've also collected some useful links here. As I said, I'll send these to Kenji afterwards so he can send them out to you. But that's my quick run through of Kialo. And now I want to go to the discussion that we've been that you've been participating in, to take a look at that and also open up to any questions from you all.
Everyone in the room has unanimously decided that pineapple does form a part of pizza. That's all we've been talking about. Any questions? I mean, right, Michael?
I was just curious. On the grading screen you had there, is that like an absolute grade, or if you grade multiple responses by a student, does that aggregate up to a grade?
Yeah, you have the option for both. So if you want to, you can grade all of the responses and then average it out here. Ooh, I should do this, but insert and then average that. But also, if you just want to check if you want to check all of their responses and then just write your own average here, but needn't be average, your own overall grade, you can also just do that. So you have the option to grade each response, deliver targeted feedback on each response, or just add an overall grade, which is probably the most common in terms of graded participation for just participating in the discussion.
Cool. Thank you.
Khai, what's on the roadmap? I know there is a plugin potentially being planned for Canvas. But is there anything else coming up that we should be aware of?
Yeah, so we actually have we have a fully working integration with Canvas. I mean, it's via the LTI. It's via LTI integration, but they don't have the plugins in the same version as Moodle. It's available in the Canvas App Store. We also have a Google Classroom integration, which is a dedicated integration. In terms of new feature rollouts, we don't have anything to announce just now. So yeah, there's no features to announce immediately.
I mean, for me, part of the thing that attracts me to this platform is its simplicity, and I struggle with Moodle forums at times, especially around engagement. But this, as just a simple model, really appeals to me because it's intuitive. You don't really need to explain it. It's fairly easy to navigate. Do you find that people have a preference for that kind of splash image or for the tree structure?
Even within the company, we have different preferences, right? I love the sunburst here. I love the fact that you're able to see all of the different branches of the discussion and then navigate them out. When a discussion is just starting, it can be easier sometimes to work in the tree structure. But particularly once it's gone a few levels deeper, so you can see here, even this one has gone out to the 3rd level. This is my example one here, but even out to the 2nd level here. Once it gets a little bit deeper, I think it's really useful to see the overview like that. In terms of when I speak to educators, I think that the sunburst is really useful for being able to get that overview. This is something that is, I mean, impossible to do with a forum discussion, for example, to try to see which different parts of the discussion have gone out in different directions and get an overview of all the different claims.
It is unique. It's not something that I've seen before. And you mentioned different kinds of use cases with it as well. Is there any advice that you've picked up along the way about introducing this to students? Is there any ways to kick it off to get people engaged quickly with it?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of just getting ideas at the beginning, we have a bank of discussion topics, and they demonstrate the most important thing about this. So let me go here, topics here, and these are more suitable for secondary, although not exclusively, but we have, 612 topics now under different categories. And the most important thing that you'll find about these, and this is the key point for any instructor that's delivering it to students, is that they demonstrate that the thesis needs to be a sentence. If the thesis is framed as a question itself, it can get a little bit confusing. So the thesis needs to be a sentence, and the claims responding to it need to be single ideas. This is something that we prompt on site, right, when students are about to interact with it, but it's not something that you can really contain unless you do add AI into this, which isn't something that we're doing. So this is the most important point to model, is that each claim is a single idea, and that keeps the structure of the discussion clean. Yeah,
that's brilliant. We have a question from Louise, and we'll probably draw this to a close
There's
after
one
that.
from Leslie above us.
And there's one from Leslie above. Right, I'll come to Louise first and then go back to Leslie. So Louise asks, this does look excellent. Thinking of governance though, how do we moderate or close down discussions when needed?
Yeah, very good. So you have the ability to set a stop time for the discussion if you wish. So that's the most basic thing. But in terms of governance oversight on everything that students post, you can set the role of the students to a few different types. So if I come up here to sharing. So I've currently invited all of you in as a writer, but if I change this to suggester mode here, this means that the discussion admin will be able to check every claim before publishing it, so it's only going to be visible to the admin before it gets published.
That's brilliant. Another question from Leslie is that, does the Moodle integration allow anonymous contributions?
Yeah, it absolutely does. So well, anonymous to each other, although the discussion admin will always be able to see. But if you implement the anonymous mode here, and now this isn't within the Moodle integration, but it works exactly the same inside the Moodle integration. So if I come up here, so you can see here that it's changed all of the avatars and usernames to a color and an animal. This will work exactly the same within the Moodle integration. So the discussion admin will be able to still be able to check everybody's real identity, but for all of the users, they'll appear as an anonymized, colorful animal.
That's brilliant. That's fantastic. Okay, Khai, sorry for running a bit over time. Although to be honest, for SMUG, given that we're like only 8 minutes running over, that's kind of like a record for us at the moment. So that's like totally awesome.